We are now being asked to graph the linear equations on the same axes. So axis is one line, axes is where the two lines are both in the same, they meet up and they go on from there. So we have one axis, we have a second axis, we have two axes. So we have two equations that we have to graph. We are not told the numbers to use, so we have to make up our numbers ourselves. So I took the liberty of finding a die from one of our games. And I am going to roll this die, and whatever number I get is what I'm going to use for x. 4. And I need at least one more number. 1. So now I'm going to plug the 4 in here. I have y equals negative 2 times 4, and that's giving me negative 8. Second one, y equals negative 2 times 1. So negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Need to repeat the process down here. So I'm going to take my die again. 6. And one more time. Well, okay, it gave me a 6 again. 4. So I plug in my 6 where x is. So I have y equals negative 2 times x, I use 6, minus 3. Y equals negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. Carry down my minus 3. Y is negative 15. That's a pretty big number. I don't think I can exactly fit that onto my number line on my graph. I'm going to continue though, and I'm going to find out what 4 is going to be. So I'm going to reuse my space here. Plug in 4. Negative 2 times 4, negative 8. Carry down my minus 3. Negative 8 minus 3, negative 11. Still a pretty big negative number. I want one more number. Instead of choosing these positive numbers, I'm going to choose a negative number though. So let's do this as x and y, and I'm going to choose negative 2. So I need to make some space. Replace x with negative 2. So now I have negative times negative is positive. 2 times 2 is 4. Carry down my minus 3. Positive 4 minus 3 is 1. Much smaller number, much friendlier for my graph. So I am going to use this negative 2 comma 1 and the 4 comma negative 11. I need to make room though. So I have my graphing space. I'm going to count by ones. counting to 11 because I want to keep this negative 11 on here. Okay, so that's negative 11 down there. That's positive 11 up there. This is negative 10. That's negative 1. That's 1, and that's positive 10. So I counted by ones in each direction. So there is 10 there, there's negative 10 there. I need to graph the 4 comma negative 8. So my x value is 4. So I go over 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. My y value is negative 8. So I'm counting down 8 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Puts me right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's my negative 8, and there's my line coming out from it. Here's my 4, there's my line coming down from it. So there's my spot. 1 comma negative 2. X is 1, y is negative 2. X is 1, y is negative 2. There it is. Now before I go any further with this, I don't want to touch the second equation yet at all. I want to finish up my first line. So I need to draw my line in here. Now I have that line done. Now I can move to my second equation. So I am using the 4 comma negative 11 and the negative 2 comma 1. So I start with the 4 comma negative 11. That's 4 in my x direction, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going in the negative direction down here. Negative 11, that's right here. So there is my dot. Second point, negative 2 comma 1. So I'm going in my negative x direction. 1, 2. And from there I'm going up 1 in my positive y direction. So that's going to be right there. Now I have to draw my line. So now I've graphed both equations. Now we have to talk about these two equations a little bit. Looking at my two equations, they look like they are parallel to each other. It's like I could have taken two markers, separated them by a little bit of space, and drawn them both at the same time. And that would have worked to give me my two lines. So they have the same slope, they have the same tilt to them. I prefer using the word slope. Same slope. The book is going to use the word tilt sometimes, and sometimes it's going to use the word slope. But they're both going down at the same rate, the same angle. Another thing that I have to look at with these, where do they cross the y-axis? This black line is my y-axis. My first equation is the blue one here. Crosses it there. My second equation is the red equation, the red line, and it crosses my axis there. So if I look at the distance here, from here down to here. The second equation is crossing the axis at a lower point than the first equation. The second equation crosses the y-axis at a lower point. Bear in mind, I am not an artist. My lines are not perfect, so that is not the exact amount of space that it's supposed to be. But it is getting getting across to you that this is a lower point on my axis. As far as where it's supposed to cross, it's supposed to cross right here at 3, negative. But, like I said, I'm not an artist, I'm not perfect. On the computer, you should be able to do much better. Graph the two linear equations on the same axes, y equals x and y equals x minus 7. We're not given numbers for them, so I have to come up with those numbers out of my head. I'm going to choose nice, easy numbers. 0 and 1. So I have my equation, y equals x. I made x equal to 0, so y equals, replace the x with the 0, y equals 0. Fill in my blank. Second equation, replace the x with 1, so I have y equals 1. No work to be done, just fill in your blanks. Next one, y equals x minus 7. Y is x minus 7. I'm going to use the same set of numbers, 0 and 1. So I have y is 0 minus 7. 0 minus 7 is negative 7. Fill in my blank. Next one, y equals x minus, did that wrong. I'm supposed to be replacing the x with the number. So instead of writing the x, I'm going to write down 1. So I have 1 minus 7. 1 minus 7 is negative 6. Fill in my blank. Make room for my graph. Can barely see that. Let's use a different color to make it darker. That's better. Now you should be able to see it. So I need to count out some spaces. I'm only going to count out 5 on my x's. So 1, 2, 3, etc. Negative 1, negative 2, etc. Going on my y's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I put a little too much space in there. Almost like I skipped a number. Graphing my first equation, I'm going to completely ignore that second equation down there. I'm going to work only with the first one. So I have 0, 0. Go left, right, 0. Go up, down, 0. My first dot is going to be right there at the origin. Second dot, 1, 1. So I go positive 1 for the x, and I go up 1 for the y. So I'm going positive 1, x, positive 1, y, and I put my dot. Draw my line, connect the dots. Now that I've finished off that first equation, now I can move to the second one. So now I'm completely ignoring the first one, and I'm looking only at the second one. I have 0, -7. So 0 in my x, that means I move left and right 0 places, which means it's going to be on that axis. My y is -7, so I'm going down 7 places. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's going to be right there. Second point, 1, -6. So I go 1 on my y and down 6 on my x. Got that backwards. 1, -6. I go 1 on my x and I go down 6 on my y. So I go 1, down 6, put my dot. Connect the dots, draw the line. Remember, I'm not an artist. These are not straight lines. They're supposed to be, but they're not. So if I were drawing a straight line, it would be like that. So I have two lines, and they stay about the same distance apart all the way up, or at least they're supposed to. When you do this on a computer, it will stay the same distance apart all the way up. So these have the same slope. Where they cross the axis is different. Where they cross the y-axis at different spots. So now I'm going to show you on the graphing calculator for those of you that have a graphing calculator. I want to type in my two equations. So up here, I have this y equals button. Press my y equals. I'm going to clear out whatever was already in there. I want to type in my equation. So it's already starting out with y equals. There's an x button right here. X, T, theta, N. I'm going to use that to represent my letter, X. So for my first equation, I'm just typing y equals X. Done. Enter. My second equation, y equals X minus 7. So it already has the y equals up here. So now I'm going to type in my X button here. And then I'm going to type minus 7 and enter. So now I have my two graphs there, or my two equations written so I can graph them. Now I find my zoom button, Z-O-O-M, right there. Press that. I want the standard zoom. So I look through my options here, and I see option number 6 is Z standard. So I want the option 6 here. So I'm pressing 6. It's graphing it for me, and it has the two lines that look very much like what I have there. So we have the same thing on the calculator as we have on the board. Everything is good.